So these are going to jump around a little bit. I tried to find a good ordering, but I don't know. I think my thoughts are a little all over the place. So we'll jump around a little bit. So the first thing is something that I have conflicting thoughts about, and that's the idea of, do I count the hours or do I not count the hours? So on the one hand, I think it's easy if you don't count hours to just not put in enough time, and putting in time anytime you're learning a new skill. Putting in time is one of the most important things you can do to improve. But at the same time, I think often that ends up being kind of a constraint. So like if you say, I'm going to sit down and play 2 hours of, 4 tables of Zoom or whatever it is you're playing at this point, I think it's really easy to, well, one, as you approach that 2 hours to, just be like counting down the minutes and not enjoying yourself, not getting the most out of the opportunity. But also you kind of tend to cap yourself at that. It's when I was playing Zoom, this would have been a few years ago, I guess, I would often, I'd sit down to play a 2 hour session. And, when I got to 2 hours, basically, unless the games were unbelievably good, I was going to stop at that 2 hours. So I think there's a bit of a conflict here. And I think, early on, if it's something that you don't have huge motivation to do, you might need to count hours just to get yourself to go, to keep going. And those hours are needed to improve. But I think later on, if you have to count, there's a pretty good chance you're probably not doing it enough to become, truly successful. And there was a quote that Timex Mike McDonald gave in one of his Facebook, I think it was a Facebook update on kind of how looking back at his life in poker, which was, someone asked him how many hours had he played to get to where he was. And, he basically didn't have an answer to that. It's like, I just, all I did was play poker and think about poker. And, the idea of counting the hours that you did that is almost ridiculous. I think it's important to have fun at what you're doing, right? If you are starting to play poker now, and even if you are, if you are currently a break-even player and you'd like to move up or, whatever, you shouldn't be planning on, this being your meal ticket or whatever. You're gonna work hard at it and see how it goes, but you have to enjoy it. I mean, if you started as a new player expecting to make X dollars a year, I think that's a situation where you're likely to get frustrated with the swings and struggle to improve. And you also get some of these kind of like positive reinforcement loops that can really help. So, if you're having fun, you're likely to do it more. When you do it more and think about it more and work on it more, you're going to get better. And as you get better and start seeing that in your results, that leads to more fun and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think when you remove this from the equation, and I know I've had times in my poker career where I'm playing and not having fun, and definitely you see it, your game becomes stagnant. You might still put in the hours because you kind of force yourself to put in the hours, but you're not doing that extra bit. You're not really improving. You're just kind of going through the motions. I think I've talked about this in one of my previous videos, but there's a really great example in Anders Ericsson's book about practice, where he talks about driving and how, everybody learns to drive. And at the start, you are a terrible driver and you put in some time and you get better. But then you spend the rest of your life driving, and in no way are you getting better the rest of your life. If anything, most people are getting slightly worse. And that's because you're not having fun. You're just sitting there going through the motions, and you're 100% on autopilot. When you just repeat the same things on autopilot, you are not getting better. And this applies to players at all levels. But I think particularly when you're starting out, it can be hard to know where to start. And so, the idea of getting a coach might sound appealing, but it's also hard to know, what you're looking for in a coach. And so kind of what I like to think about is, what is the purpose of a coach? And I think you get some mixed responses to this in the poker world. So there's a lot of different forms that coaching takes, whether it's a database review, whether it's, them watching you play live, whether it's them, you watching them play live and kind of giving your thoughts and hearing their thoughts as they go, and lots of different approaches. And I think each one can sound good, but it's hard to know which is the correct way. Okay, another thing that's important is something that, again, I don't think I was very good at, is to be open-minded. I have a particular example of this, which I used to play the Pacific Poker Limit Hold'em games, and I think they had up to 50, 100, and I think even 75, 150 a little bit, although I didn't play a ton of that. And there were some players there who were much looser and more aggressive than the standard kind of regulars that I knew and played with often. And at the time, I remember thinking about it and being like, well, these guys are clearly terrible, and playing with them every opportunity I had, often shorthanded. Looking back on it now, I mean, it may be that they were bad players. I'm not saying that they were good, but if you look at Limit Hold'em now, it's a much different game than when I played. And in particular, it's a lot looser and it's a lot more aggressive. And I think in that situation, I basically just wrote off any possibility of that being the case. And I played with those guys every opportunity I got, despite losing a fair bit of money to at least one of them. And yeah, I think it's easy to get very stuck in your ways.